According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, hack is a transitive verb which means to gain access to a computer illegally. Thus, a hacker is someone who seeks and exploits vulnerabilities in the computer system or computer network.
Sean McGurk works to protect America's complex networks like power stations and water companies from attack.
The greatest threat today to the world is the keyboard. In the past, it may have been nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction. Today, we see that same level of capability being exercised by lone individuals using keyboards as opposed to bombs. They can hack into transportation networks, into computer networks, emergency communications networks, even air transportation are all susceptible to the hackers
I'm Christopher
today.
Jones, and my Technology in the Global Arena presentation covers the ethical nature of computer hacking and criminal investigations. It's common in our society to share important information on our computers and other electronic devices, which we own, in contrast to a few decades ago where everything was put in writing. Some of us are storing this information without even being aware of it. Examples of this are sent emails and drafts, our internet browsing history, and our passwords. Because computers can potentially contain all that information, a computer owned by a defendant in a criminal case can easily be classified as evidence. Because of file encryption, account passwords, and individual file passwords, hacking is necessary to extract the maximum amount of information when using a computer with no permission from the owner. The subject in question is the ethical nature of hacking personal computers during a criminal investigation. It can be argued that using hacking in those situations is ethical because it's simply used as an information gathering process, and the gathered information is analyzed and used in a court of law for a specific purpose of reaching a final ruling. Despite this, it can also be argued that hacking is unethical because it is by definition stealing and is also an invasion of privacy. The main ethical actors in this issue are the criminal investigator, who is a member of the authorities given the authorization to perform the hacking of a computer taken as evidence in a case, and the defendant of the criminal case, who essentially serves as the victim of the hacking. To aid in reaching a conclusion on the ethical nature of this subject, we can use ethical provisions 1.2 and 2.8 from the Association for Computing Machinery's Code of Ethics. 1.2 states, avoid harm to others. Harm means injury or negative consequences, such as undesirable loss of information, loss of property, property damage, or unwanted environmental impacts. This principle prohibits use of computing technology in ways that result in harm to any of the following: users, the general public, employees, or employers. Well-intended actions, including those that accomplish assigned duties, may lead to harm unexpectedly. In such an event, the responsible person or persons are obligated to undo or mitigate the negative consequences as much as possible. So basically, this provision states that hacking in this situation is unethical simply because it has the possibility of causing psychological harm to the defendant if they are made aware that their privacy was violated through the access of their computer, regardless of the investigator's good intention. Basically, harm in any form is unethical, regardless of intention. In relation to this topic, it is the responsibility of the authorities to limit the harm as much as possible. And then Provision 2.8 of the ACM. Access computing and communication resources only when authorized to do so. Theft or destruction of tangible and electronic property is prohibited by Imperative 1.2, avoid harm to others. Trespassing and unauthorized use of a computer or communication system is addressed by this imperative. Trespassing includes accessing communication networks and computer systems or accounts and files associated with those systems without explicit authorization to do so. No one should enter or use another computer system, software, or data files without permission. One must always have appropriate approval before using system resources, including communication ports, file space, other system peripherals, and computer time. This provision suggests that the hacking carried out by authorities is ethically justified as long as they have the proper authorization. In America, we do grant authorities the authorization to perform searches of our property for evidence during court cases. Hacking for investigative purposes, in my opinion, is no different than a search of the defendant's home, even if one is normally considered more invasive than the other. A home can have just as many security measures to be bypassed as a computer can have, such as alarm system passwords and door locks. Through the application of these ethical provisions, we still can't reach a definitive answer on the question, is the usage of computer hacking for investigation ethical or unethical? Arguments can be made for both sides because it is unethical when looked at as an invasion of privacy, but ethical when looked at as an action which is authorized by law and justified by a specific intention. To conclude, based on my own opinion and the ACM's ethical provision, computer hacking during criminal investigations is both unethical and ethical. It should be noted that this is assuming the hacking is done with proper authorization and carried out by the authorities while adhering to a procedure which fully respects the privacy of the defendant. Thank you.
It's using a polymorphic engine to mutate the code. Whenever I try to gain access, it changes. It's like solving a Rubik's Cube that's fighting back.
Stop. Go in on that. Remember Road. It's an old tube station on the Metropolitan line. Been closed for years. Use that as a key.
Oh, look, it's a map.